All right, let's talk Miami Dolphins. Look, it's that time of the year post-draft where we love to go through every single team's pick and we look for those hidden gems, those massive weapons, those great playmakers, those underrated deals that teams pulled off that no one is talking about. And the Dolphins have one guy in particular that I think everyone is kind of sleeping on, but I think this was a phenomenal pickup by Miami. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that's Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Miami Dolphins, they needed a big draft. Some questions about some picks maybe early in the process, but they really nailed it towards the end. Let's get right into this report here. Just to refresh everyone's memory, let's pull up the tweet when they made the selection. This is from the Miami Dolphins official Twitter page. With the 179th pick in the NFL draft, we, talking about Miami, have selected running back Ollie Gordon from at Cowboy Football. That's Oklahoma State. So taking running back Ollie Gordon. For those of you who aren't familiar, let's pull up his stats here, looking at the past 3 years of collegiate football that he played. As a freshman in 2022, had some good playing time, not a whole lot of touches. In 2023, he just exploded onto the college football season. Look at those numbers: 1,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry, adding 39 catches to that total. He was Ashton Jeanty before Ashton Jeanty. He was Caleb Johnson before Caleb Johnson. He was the next great running back in all of college football. But what happened from 2023 to 2024, at least on paper, it looks like he got worse, right? If you look at those numbers, his yards per carry dipped to 4.6, only 880 total yards rushing, 13 rushing touchdowns, receptions dropped from 39 to 29. The question is, though, did he get worse or did Oklahoma State get worse? And I guarantee you, as a guy who watched a lot of Big 12 football, Oklahoma State from 2023 to 2024 took a massive leap downward. The talent around him was terrible. Coaching was terrible. Injuries were a problem. Defense had issues. When that happens, your running back production will drop considerably. And as the season wore on, the opposition for Oklahoma State realized, hey, listen, the only good player on this Oklahoma State offense is Gordon. So they went even harder to stop Ollie Gordon, who they were already trying to game plan against anyway. It created a nightmare situation for this running back, and his production dipped. But here's where I think the NFL process gets a little interesting, right? There's a lot of recency bias when it comes to evaluating prospects. We look for players that had really good seasons the year before the draft, right? We just fall in love with what we saw in this case in 2024, and we can forget what happened in, say, 2023 or prior to that. So let's go into a couple charts right here to really explain what I'm talking about. So our first one here is comparing two stats I love from running backs: 10-yard plus runs and breakaway runs. 10-yard plus runs indicate how good you are at taking advantage of small creases, getting past that 4 or 5 yard hole, turning it into a 12-yard run. And the breakaway runs are how good are you turning in a big hole when you get into the secondary, making that safety miss and turning it into a big play. And what's interesting, if you look at Ollie Gordon's 2023 numbers and compare them against Cam Scatterbo and Caleb Johnson, two running backs who went in the fourth round, Scatterbo, third round, Johnson, respectively, you can see Ollie Gordon's 2023 numbers compared to Scatterbo's and Johnson's 2024 numbers. Gordon is just as good with Scatterbo, tied for the best between those three guys in 10-yard plus runs, and significantly better than Scatterbo and better than Caleb Johnson in breakaway runs. Now, here's where it gets interesting, right? Everyone loved Cam Scatterbo and Caleb Johnson, but when you back up 1 year to 2023, in fact, let's pull up the chart here. Look at their numbers, specifically Caleb Johnson, but even Cam Scatterbo. If you compare Ollie Gordon's terrible 2024, the way the draft analysts and people are reading it, to Cam Scatterbo's and Caleb Johnson's 2023, Ollie Gordon's just as good, if not better than those guys, right? So again, we're falling into a recency bias, at least a lot of people in the NFL did. Ollie Gordon's 2024 was just as bad or good as Scatterbo's or Johnson's 2023, while Gordon's 2023 was just as good as Scatterbo's or Johnson's 2024. Now, do I think Ollie Gordon suddenly forgot how to play football between his sophomore and junior year of college? Absolutely not. What we have here is a perfect example of recency bias. The result of something like that, the Dolphins have a great opportunity, and they took advantage of it, picking up a massive weapon, a great playmaker at the running back position. All right, Miles, I know I've said a lot there, thrown a lot of stuff out there. I am curious what your thoughts are. But first, Dolphins fans in the comment section below, rate this draft selection. Obviously, later in the draft, maybe a lot of people had moved on, but I think this may be the most important pick in terms of at least value for Miami. Do you love this pick? Give it an A. Do you hate it? Give it an F. Wait and see. Give it a C. Give us your thoughts and grade this pick in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest out of Miami?
Yeah, Nick, I think the stats are undeniable, and your take on we don't really look, like you said, we don't peel back the years quite enough, I think, in this football landscape when we're evaluating talent. Like, how often do we see a guy have a big year and then, regress somewhat? And we, in the NFL, and we say, okay, well, they just had a down year. The next year is going to be better, and usually comes back up. Or we don't say, uh, just because someone plays for a bad team, like someone goes to the Cleveland Browns and underperforms, we usually attribute it to, okay, well, the team was bad. It's not necessarily the player that was bad, the team is bad. So I think that is something we really get caught up into. I'm glad you brought that up because I think people don't really look at guys who maybe had an incredible 2 years ago and just an okay this past year. And the draft really drains that out because if you look at what this guy brought to the table, like you did, this guy was absolutely phenomenal in 2023. Look at the accolades the guy got. He got the Doak Walker Award for the nation's top running back in 2023. He's a first team All American, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, first team Big 12, obviously. He led the FBS with 1,700 running yards. He had 2,062 yards from scrimmage. So he also was great in the receiving game. He had 330 yards, 8.5 yards per catch. He had a receiving touchdown. He ranked second with 21 rushing touchdowns in the FBS. He started all 14 games. I think that people are really taking his, dip in production, so to speak, a little bit too harshly. This guy definitely really should got, a little bit more judged this year. I think there should be a little more, accolades, some little more hype about him. I know he had a little bit of off the field issue, suspicion of DUI arrest, but it kind of like got swept under the rug in the summer of 2024. But outside of that, we've seen this guy. He did fantastic. He's still an Honorberg Big 12, all Big 12 mention in 2024. So this guy, I think he could be someone special. And I think my most important thing here is fit. How does he fit this Dolphins team? And the fact of the matter is, he fits pretty dang good because you lose a lot of running backs in this Dolphins locker room. Who do you got left? Your number one guy, Devon Achane. But what is he? He's that home run hitter. He's the absolute speedster. He's small. He's 5'8", 180 pounds. Ollie Gordon, opposite of that. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. This guy is the bigger back. This is the guy that you want to take those goal line touches. This is the guy that can punch it in. This is the guy that can give you those tough yards. Yes, we know Devon Achane is a really fantastic player as well, and he brings a lot to the table. But having a guy like Ollie Gordon, who's the opposite and can complement him very, very well, I think that's just as important. And the fact that he can catch the ball in the backfield as well to boot. No one's ever going to be safe when the Dolphins have a running back in anymore. Anyone can catch out of the backfield. Anyone can make big plays out of the backfield. He's not even like what I would consider like Najee Harris was. Najee Harris was a really solid, big running back, but he rarely had that huge play ability. I think Ollie Gordon, like you said, in the 15 plus yard category, he did really well compared to some of these other top running backs in this class. So overall, a great pickup for the Dolphins. I think the guy has a ton of value here. I think he has a ton of ability, especially looking on that 2023 season. And I think they got him for a really great steal in this draft.
And you bring up a great point about fit. I think that's also a really good thing about value, right? It's one thing to get a good player and have a lot of value, which I think Ollie Gordon is. Getting him in the sixth round for anybody's a steal, but especially Miami, they're looking for that physical running back. They're looking at that physical presence. Look, that was basically the theme of their draft. Miami, from a leadership perspective, came into this draft saying, we're going to get tougher. We're going to get more physical. We're going to get bigger. We're going to get stronger. And a lot of that was done up front, where it obviously really shines. But it was done at the running back position too, with Gordon, who's 225 pounds. He is a bruising runner, a nose for the end zone. And Miami needs that, right? Last year, they were 16th in touchdown scoring percentage in the red zone. It's not terrible, but when you have guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and a healthy Tua when he's healthy, you should be in the top five regularly because those are guys that can create a lot of space and make it easy for your offense, especially with a guy like Mike McDaniel, who, whether you love him or hate him, very creative in the red zone in the passing game. But to take that next step and get into the top five, top two, or I would argue maybe even the best at football, you need that bruising running back. And that's exactly what Ollie Gordon is. And here's a guy, again, who has overcome that adversity, right? He is a grown up. He's gone through some stuff in terms of being the star, the face of the program, to having a down year for a terrible Oklahoma State team in 2024. He's coming into an opportunity with Miami where he doesn't have to be the guy. A-Chain's the number one guy. You look at Jalen Wright doing some things as well. I'm expecting Ollie Gordon to be short yardage, goal line at bare minimum, a guy to maybe finish games, right? You got that lightning to start the game in A-Chain, then turn it over to Gordon in the fourth quarter to ice these things away. Or how about a cold weather game? You go to Kansas City for another playoff game in January. It's hard to be fast in that weather. A guy like Ollie Gordon with his physical power, his 230-pound frame, can handle that a lot better than a guy like A-Chain, a lot better than a guy like Jalen Wright. I look at this being an incredible amount of value for the Miami Dolphins. But going back to the recency bias thing, I kind of want to end on this point because I know, Mice, this hits close to home to you. So 2 off seasons ago, a lot of people viewed Derrick Henry, the great running back, as washed up. He was gone. After all, in 2020, he had 2,000 rushing yards. In 2021, he was hurt. In 2022, he had 1,500 rushing yards. And in 2023, he had 1,100 rushing yards with the Tennessee Titans. He's done, right? He's on the downslope of his career. He's approaching 30. But no one stopped to say, wait a minute, the Titans are terrible. Right? Maybe his yards are going down because the Titans are getting worse and worse and worse. And suddenly, lo and behold, he goes to the Baltimore Ravens, a very good team, a playoff team. Suddenly, he runs for 1,900 yards and 16 touchdowns, right? Did Derrick Henry forget how to play football in 2023 and suddenly remember in 2024? Of course not. He just went from a bad team to a good team. That's what happened to Ollie Gordon in college in reverse. It was the reverse Derrick Henry from Tennessee to Baltimore. It was Ollie Gordon, good Oklahoma State team in 2023, one of the best running backs, maybe the best running back in college football. Bad Oklahoma State team in 2024, suddenly his numbers dip. I'm looking forward to him to have a massive impact for Miami day one. Again, you talk about a massive weapon, a big-time playmaker, an underrated piece, hidden gem, whatever you want to call it. The Miami Dolphins got themselves one in Ollie Gordon.